People is always the answer. Once you multiply yourself, you can make money. Don't worry about the next client. Just take care of this client. We're always trying to do too much when things are due. The freedom of it is unbelievable. Just take care of your people.
Hey everyone, Dave Menz, Laundromat Millionaire, back with another fantastic episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. And we have one of my favorite guys on planet Earth with us today. My good friend, we're going to introduce him in a minute, but this is going to be a little bit different episode because he's not a laundromat guy. What I call him is a time expert, time savings expert, maybe something like that. I know he wouldn't feel comfortable with that. He's probably feeling a little bit uncomfortable right now knowing that I'm referring to him as an expert. But the reality is what we're going to talk about today is something that's very valuable to all business owners, no matter what field you're in. And that is time savings, time management, how to keep your energy high, how to keep your work ethic where it needs to be to accomplish great things in the world. So I'm here today with my wonderful friend, my beautiful wife, and we're going to have a great conversation about time management, and we hope that it's going to bring you some value. Carla, you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. So today we have with us Adam Szabo from Cincinnati, Ohio. Now this is a lot. Adam is a very busy guy. Okay, so he's a passionate husband, father, and Christian, as well as a mentor and coach to hundreds of young adults and teenagers. Adam also loves teaching and preaching in the church when he is able. Adam is the owner of Excelerate Athletic Development, which trains college athletes, places strength and speed coaches at high schools and other organizations, as well as installs off-season speed programs for high schools and colleges across the country. Excelerate Athletic Development has won 3 high school state championships, 3 WABC 18U baseball national championships, coached Ohio's Mr. Football, has 5 state runner-ups, and 4 Final Four appearances. In his spare time, as if there is any, Adam Szabo has taught high school math full-time. Yes, he is a full-time teacher for 21 years, as well as coaching football and track and field. So obviously Adam is a very, very busy guy, but he has made time for us today. So Adam Szabo, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's good to just hang out with you guys for a little bit and have a conversation.
Yes,
Well,
it's so great to have you.
We all know how this is going to go, Adam, okay?
We're going to talk for 6 hours.
You and I are going to get a word in edgewise. And Carla is just going to ramble about business and time management and
Laundromats. I'll try to throw that in there.
Yeah, because me and Dave are the wallflowers and always just stand in the corner and never have an opinion.
Yes, it's so hard to even pull words out of you all.
So for those of you watching this on YouTube or C-Suite TV, what you're going to see is Carla going like this. And if you're listening on audio, what I'm doing is going to the left, and then to the right, and then to the left, and then to the right.
It'll be like watching a tennis match.
There you go. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So anyway, listen, obviously you're not a very busy guy. You had all kinds of spare time, so it really wasn't a big deal for you to take time out of your schedule and come hang out with us. But seriously, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And you are one of my favorite people on the planet. So I love hanging out with you, spending time with you.
I feel the same way about you guys.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Well, all right. So listen, we're going to jump right into it. What we usually ask our guests to do is, before we get into your actual story, is just to give a little bit of a backdrop for our audience of kind of your backstory, how you were brought up. Whatever you want to share is up to you, however much you want to share. But we really feel it's important because it gives people in our audience kind of a little bit of a look into not only who we are today, but how do we become who we are today? Because that's really what forms and molds us. So can you just kind of take us back to your childhood, wherever you want to start, and kind of give us that journey and that story?
Yeah, so I have 2 brothers. One's 2 years older than me and one's 6 years younger than me. And our house was a constant locker room and playground growing up. My mom used to yell at us things like, "This isn't the locker room," because we'd be running around, in our underwear and sweating on everything and
I think I've said that to our boys.
Yeah,
yes.
throwing balls against the wall and whatever. So it was all sports all the time in our house. It wasn't pushed on us to do that. It just kind of happened. I was lucky enough to have a wonderful father and mother growing up. So I grew up until I was 16 years old in like the typical nuclear family. My parents actually got divorced when I was 16. We moved from Cleveland when I was 9 and then came down here, and then my parents got divorced about 7 years after that. So that changed the dynamic of our family, and that obviously gave me and my older brother a ton more responsibility at a young age, which I look back on now, even though it's not a good thing for your parents to get divorced. It taught us a lot, and it also made us a lot more responsible because we had to take care of business with parents working and us making sure our little brother got food each night and cook him dinner and all those kind of things. Besides that, life was pretty good for me growing up. We got to do what we needed to do in terms of sports-wise. We never had a ton of money, but we always had enough money. It's not like I didn't go to Florida, I think, or rode on a plane until I was about 20. But we had everything we always need, and I was lucky because I had 2 amazing supportive parents.
I know one of the things you pride yourself on, or not pride yourself, pride your family on, is that you feel like they work pretty well together. Was that a pretty traumatic experience for you? I mean, obviously it was. There's no way it's not.
Yeah.
But what was the going through that like? I mean, that had to be pretty extreme adversity. I'm just thinking back to when I was 16. Like, to kind of have divorce it tears your family apart, right?
Yeah.
There's no nice way to put it. What was that like for you at 16 years old?
It was terrible, to be completely honest with you. There was a time period where I didn't talk to my dad very much because I was kind of taking it out on him. So that was an issue, but it actually kind of worked itself out in the end because we got really lucky that all of our parents, because my wife's parents are divorced also, that all 4 of our parents married quality people. So, and they invested into our lives extremely well. So like my children right now, my 2 girls especially, are spoiled rotten because they have 8 grandparents. Right. I mean, so like Christmas is just stupid. Yeah. I mean, it's like completely out of control. Yeah. Birthdays are out of control. There's some weeks where they see until my stepfather passed away in January, they might see all 7 of them in 1 week. I mean, and that was amazing because all my grandparents lived away. So for them to have that investment in their life, I mean, there are doctors, there are school teachers, there are people in music, people in sports, people that are partners at an accounting firm. So I mean, the kids know that they can't do something because, one of my grandparents did
an expert in every field.
Yes. But also the divorce part of it made us, especially me and my older brother, really more empathetic towards others. Because our life had been so good up to that point, it was easy for us to say, well, why doesn't your family do this? And then it kind of dropped the bomb on us, and it humbles you a little bit in those situations, which has been a good thing for me and Kristen because my wife, Kristen, who is just absolutely fantastic, as the Menzes know.
Yes, she is.
She's one.
Absolutely.
We have just made a point that we will never get divorced.
Yes.
So it is just like part of our normal conversation. This is not going to happen.
Yes.
And so we live our lives that way too, because we want our parents to grow up in that 1950s sitcom of our parents love each other and all those kind of things. Yeah.
Well, I imagine he'll marry some lovely, charming creature exactly like his mother.
Boyd, you're sweet.
No, I'm not. Just diplomatic.
Go scrape your plate.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So you were very into sports growing up, but yet you became a math teacher. So were academics also pushed in your household? Like, what made you decide to go that avenue instead of going into athletic training in college and stuff like that?
So academics were always important. My parents made sure we did our homework and all of those things, but me and my brothers weren't great students. We were good students.
That surprises me.
Well, I mean, I did well in school, but I wasn't at home working on papers and studying for tests all night long.
You had games to prepare for.
Exactly right. Well, to go back to what Dave was talking about, the time management, even then, one of my buddies used to make fun of me all the time at study hall because I sat with, just by randomness of being assigned there, one of the best looking girls in school. But I never talked to her because I was too busy doing my homework because I didn't want to do my homework when I got home.
Right.
Yes.
I wanted time at night to be able to go out on dates and have fun with my friends and go to practice and all those things. So it actually kind of started at a young age. I was like, she's a distraction. I don't need to deal with her. I'm probably not going to date her anyway, right? So let's get unfocused on what.
Yeah.
But I went. Math always was kind of something that kind of came naturally to me. So I actually went to school to be an architect, and then I decided. Yeah. So I decided after my freshman year that I didn't want to sit in a cubicle. So this shows you how lack of preparation on my academic part. My mom was like, well, why don't you become a math teacher then if you're going to be a teacher? And I was like, why? And she's like, well, you'll get a job easily, and you've already taken a bunch of those classes for your architecture and engineering anyway. So why don't you just do that? And I was like, fine.
All right.
That it's not like I put some tons
Told me
of
your whole
thought.
life's work, right?
So it's not like I sat up and was like wringing my hands about what I should major in. And thank goodness my mom's smart, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's good when you have good parents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Because she talked me into a subject. Now I can get any job I want anywhere at any time, and there's always a need for math teachers, right? I mean, so I was just lucky I was stupid. My mom was smart, right?
Do you love math? I mean,
I do like it, yes, but I actually like the physics and the science part more.
Okay.
If I really would have thought about it for 5 seconds,
Yeah.
I probably would have become a science teacher.
Yeah.
But the math part I still enjoy it and I still like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
All right.
did you think of going into teaching because you wanted to coach? Was that kind of the drive
Yeah,
behind teaching?
that drove it more. I really wanted to coach. I was really lucky. When you're talking about the backstory,
yeah.
you know how in life you're successful if you have some talent, you have a really good work ethic, and you get lucky. I got really, really lucky. So like through the strength training and speed stuff, I came in that through the back door because I don't have like a kinesiology degree or an exercise science degree, but I got really lucky. Because in high school, I had one of the most anal retentive, most organized people to ever have as a football coach. His name is Vince Suriano. And if you ask any of his former players, to this day, we would do anything for him at any time because he changed all of our lives for the better. And then I had a track coach who was the same way, named Andy Wolf. And I ran track as a junior because I wanted to get better at football. And little did I realize that 2 years was going to change my life more than I could have ever imagined football ever would. So Andy Wolf was one of the first high school coaches to get taken to the Olympic Development Center because he was at the top of his field. And so he learned the Olympic model pretty early. And then my sprint coach was a guy named Jed Davis, who went to the University of Houston where Carl Lewis's head coach was, who is the most decorated male Olympian ever.
Yeah.
So he learned from a guy named Tom Tellez who was there. So my two coaches in high school were basically Olympic level type coaches.
That's
and then
amazing.
later I come back to Anderson and coach again, and there's this old guy named Bruce Smith coaching volunteering. And I'm like, Andy, who is this guy? And he's like, Adam, you won't believe this. He's like, in 1988, Bruce was the Canadian Olympic track relay coach. And I went, what?
Wow.
So for the next couple of years, all I did was ask Bruce questions because I was just trying to get as much information from him as possible as I could get before it happened. So those 4 people completely changed my life. And so like I started going to football clinics when I started coaching, and I would go listen to these college strength coaches, or I'd go to listen to the Olympic pole vault coach talk whenever I was coaching track. And I was sitting there one day at like 23 years old going, I know what they're talking about. How do I know what they're talking about? And I'm like, oh my gosh, Vince Suriano, Jed Davis, Andy Wolf, Bruce Smith, holy crap, right? Like,
So that was when you realized, like, when you were going through this and being taught by these people, you didn't really realize, like, you just thought this is like high school sports, right?
yeah,
You
I
didn't
was
know.
just being a good kid doing what the coaches
Right.
said. I had
Right.
no idea that I had world-class coaches. And go figure that we had this suburban school and we won the 4x1 when I was a senior at the districts, right? Like, go figure, right? That usually doesn't happen.
Right.
So we were ahead of everybody. And I didn't realize it until later.
So at 23, you had that aha light bulb moment where you were like, I'm actually, like, really good at this stuff. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I was trained and mentored.
I just didn't know how to coach yet.
Okay.
I had the information, I just didn't know how to get it across. So but then I was coaching for Andy Wolf, who, was my high school coach. So he kind of helped me with that process of like learning the art of coaching. I kind of had the science of coaching. He needed to teach me the art of coaching.
So how did you then get from being an athletic coach to owning your own training company? How did that transition happen?
Once again, a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck, right? So
You keep saying luck, but I think it was a lot of hard work.
Well, it is, but unless certain opportunities come your way, you don't even have a chance to shine, right? And so I was coaching football at Anderson High School in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was coaching track also, and Kristen had just had Leah. All right. So now this is a different conversation. We can talk about our boys also. That's a totally different story. But yeah. Kristen had just had Leah, and she was going to stay home. Well, I was being a lazy bum during the summer. So Dave makes it sound like since day one, I've been this time expert. Well, during this period of time during the summer, I was watching a lot of TV and wasting a lot of time. Okay. So I thought, I'll start training college football players, because kids that go to, like, in our area, Division III schools like Wittenberg, Mount St. Joe, Ohio Northern, those kind of schools, they come back in the summer. And sometimes they need people to train them. So I started training college kids when they came back, and it was going really well. I loved every second of it. I was dealing with really mature kids. I could do high-level stuff. Life was good. Well, people then started hearing about it and started asking me to start doing training for their kids and stuff like that. And I just told everybody no. Yeah. I had a newborn at home. I didn't have time. I was coaching 2 sports. I had no time for any of this stuff. But I couldn't keep telling everyone no all the time. So then the next thing that happened was Midland Baseball, which is the best 18U organization, ABC organization in the country. They had a kid that could hit like crazy, but he kept falling on the base paths. Well, one of our assistant coaches at Anderson also coached baseball at Midland. So one day he brought that kid up to see if I could fix him. And I fixed him in like 10 minutes. Well, that word spread. He was doing something very simple wrong. Yeah. It didn't take like a genius to figure this out. If you knew anything about acceleration patterns, you could figure it out. Okay. So it's not like I was the only one that could figure this out. So that word spread back. And then I had a meeting with the head of the organization, and I became their strength coach for the summer, the next summer, and then it just grew from there. And then at one point, then I stopped coaching track, because then we had Claire. And then from there, it just got really busy, and I couldn't keep telling everybody no, because the opportunity to make money was too great. And so eventually I just said, forget it. I quit coaching all the other sports, and I jumped in. And then that first year, I checked the other day, we made $13,000. And then last year, we hit $100,000 for the first time.
Wow, that is awesome. And how many years is this?
It took 6 years.
6 years
to get to that point.
That's awesome. I still don't understand though. So you're still teaching full time. You never have left teaching.
Yeah.
How are you doing this teaching full time?
As you guys know too, people is always the answer. And I got some really good guys to coach and teach with me and do the training with me. So I could have, once you multiply yourself, you can make money. And so
it's called leverage. It's called leverage.
So I multiplied myself, and it took some time to do that. And then we started getting other schools, other organizations, but it would have never grown if I didn't have fantastic individuals training for me. And thank goodness I had them, because the business would have never grown without them, because I was running out of time. Because the way the training world works, every school trains from like 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Yeah. So it's not like I can be at multiple.
Can't stagger them.
Exactly right. It's impossible. So I had to multiply myself. And it really worked out, because I found some guys that I already knew and grabbed them. I tripped and fell into some other people through the grapevine. And so people were helping me find people because they knew I was looking, and it just little by little, it just worked its way through the system.
So when did you start Excelerate? When did you create the business?
2010, I started training college football players, but it wasn't until like 14 or 15 that I went all in
Like you actually developed the company.
Yes.
Okay.
Until then, it was just a little side pet project. It really wasn't like a real business. I joke now that my business still isn't like a real business because like you guys own stuff, right? Like you guys own things. You have employees. I have guys that work for me, and we're basically a consulting training company.
Yeah.
So we go to people. So I technically don't own anything.
So don't sell yourself short, because services is still a thing.
Exactly right.
There's people out there running millions, hundreds of millions, billion-dollar companies that are all based on service.
Yeah.
They don't have a retail store. That doesn't make them if anything, there's probably more service-oriented businesses nowadays than ever before.
Yeah, and the first time I thought I could do something like that, I was reading a book about the behind the scenes of the Baltimore Ravens one year, and I'm going to butcher his name, but I think it's Steve Biscotti is the owner of the Ravens, and he got rich by engineering consulting. So he hired engineers and then sent them to people that needed them all over the country. So he technically didn't own anything either. Now he owns something because now he owns the Baltimore Ravens. But up to that point, he was doing the exact type of thing I'm doing, just on a way grander scale. But I just thought, when I heard it, I was like, that's really interesting. And then that gave me the idea of like, okay, you could do this with coaching also.
Do you have to spend a lot of time training your people to work with the other teams? Or do you find people that are already just kind of specialists?
Well, most of the people I get are already really good at weightlifting.
Okay.
Most people are terrible at the speed and agility and conditioning side of it. They just have never learned it because it's not something that most people try to learn. Most people like to weightlift and they've learned it through the grapevine, or they've just done it through practice and figured it out, but most people don't know the other side of it. So I always have to teach them the other side of it, which is where we actually make our money, because that's the side that nobody else knows.
Right.
So that's when you're talking about leverage in our niche, that's where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, something I want to call out to too, with you building this amazing, let's call it a side business, even though it's probably a full-time job or full-time business, is the networking. You know, you keep. I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit, buddy. And the reason
keep calling it luck.
Yeah, you keep calling it luck, and the reality is you don't just. I mean, luck does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's it's when you're prepared and you put yourself in the right position, and you meet the right people. Now, sometimes people go through life and do great things and never meet an Olympic trainer. So yeah, something like that might be luck. But the reality is you have built this entire business by networking, caring for others, serving others, looking to help others make their dreams come true. People recognize that. I mean, that's kind of, I never saw myself as a coach, but that's kind of what I'm doing a lot of nowadays. It's the same idea. Like it just kind of, for me, it just kind of snowballed because I was just like, well, I know something he doesn't know, and if I teach him, then he'll know, and it'll help him be better at what he's doing in life, and it just happens to be laundromats. And I do that. Well, I didn't charge people for it. I did that for 2 or 3 years, totally for free. I was just like, well, if I can help Adam, then sure, I'll help Adam. And same thing happened with me. I became totally overwhelmed and was like, okay, I got to start saying no or start charging. And then one of my mentors was like, you actually need to do both. So anyway, you have built this business by networking with other people.
Yeah,
caring for other people.
We were talking before the show that the answer to all business questions is people.
Yeah.
Right? Taking care of your people. Sometimes it's taking care of the customer. Sometimes it's taking care of your trainers. Because like they're at some of the schools, I can't say that I train those kids because I never have any contact with them, nor do I need to because I'm the CEO of the company, right? But I have to make sure that my trainers are taken care of, so then that the trainers take care of the kids. And it goes that direction. But somebody's always needing to be taken care of. And my trainers sometimes will be like, well, what's the next step in building the business? What are you going to do? Well, I'm like, well, first of all, I don't have any time. So like, that's why I joke that it's not a real business, because I'm like not trying to grow it. And I know that sounds bad, but that's not really the case. I'm just kind of letting it grow when it grows. But I tell them, don't worry about the next client. Just take care of this client. And the next client.
Listen to this. Everybody listen to this. Say it again for me.
Take care of the current client you have, because they will get you the next client. They will be your best marketing and advertising ever. If you worry about the other client that you don't have and don't take care of your current client, you're not going to get that one, and you're going to lose the one you have. But if you take care of the one that you have right now, I promise you, you will get more clients. People will tell other people, and it spreads like wildfire.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Walk me through you make this sound real easy, okay? That story made that sound real easy.
Okay, first of all, it's not easy.
That's my point. That's actually where I'm going with it. Walk me through some of the struggles. Like, we talked through, like, you just kind of matter of fact, we were like, oh, I just decided to do this and help people. Next thing you know, I made $100,000. Like, that's not the real world. We all know that.
Yeah.
What are some of the struggles that you went through, and maybe the organization as you built it? Did you try things that didn't work and you were like, what was I thinking? That was stupid. Like, what was the journey like?
The biggest problem was my own arrogance, because I'm a control freak. And I like to be in charge. So it really killed me to let trainers do the training without me around, because I was way too arrogant to think that I'm the best, and therefore if they don't do it as well as me, then it's not good. And then my mother again looks at me one day and goes, Adam, it doesn't matter if it's done as well as you think it should be done. It just needs to be done as well as they think it needs to be done. So what she was basically saying was, quit worrying about it being done at 100%. Your client's going to be happy if it's even done at 95%. And your trainer's missing just a little bit of it. It's okay. You're still doing an amazing job. And like, don't be so arrogant that you think that if you don't touch the product, that it's not going to happen. And so that is what kept me from multiplying myself, because I wanted control of the product, which I know you guys understand also, because the farther you get away from the product, the less control you have, and the more that trainer can go rogue, let's say, and I know that sounds bad, but they can kind of start doing their own thing, and then you lose the product, because in some ways you want to be Domino's Pizza.
Right.
You want to be able to get Domino's in Switzerland or in Los Angeles the same. It should taste the same no matter where you go. So most of it needed to be the same, but I had to start giving my trainers a little leeway, because then the other part of it was they were going to never grow as trainers if I didn't give them a little rope. So that took me some time to figure out. Once I figured that out, once my mom figured that out and told me,
Told you.
yeah, then that's when things really started going.
Yeah.
And it was good, because then I realized something else. Some of my trainers were better at some of it than I was.
Yeah.
Go figure.
How did you figure that out? Just results?
I would, let's say, leave for a week to go on vacation and come back, and then I'd look at everybody and go, oh crap, how'd you figure this out? Like, oh, it's different. Oh, they're doing that better.
So I want to ask you about a story that you told me about offline.
Uh-oh.
So you've mentioned your humility or lack thereof, or your arrogance, I think you called it. You told me a story that when you were 25 years old, you thought you had it all figured out. You ended up becoming the head football coach at a small high school.
Yeah.
And you guys, what was it you told me? You went to the state championship? Is that what happened? Tell me this story.
Dave's lying right now. So what happened was a young, arrogant 25-year-old named Adam Szabo took a head football coaching job at a really small rural school east of Cincinnati. And you should ask yourself two questions. First question would be, what kind of program would offer a head coaching job to a 25-year-old? And the answer is a bad one. And then the other question is, who's arrogant enough to take that job at 25 and think he's going to fix it? And you're looking at him right now. I was the idiot that thought I could do that. You got to remember, in all the sports I'd ever played, we always won. We never did not win, right? I mean, I was lucky once again. Remember, I had really good coaches who were really advanced, and we had really good players, okay? So I go out to this place, and we go 0-10 my first year. We go 1-9 my second year, and we
Improving?
We did, and we went 3-7 my last year. And some people might think, well, you still suck, and in a lot of ways we did. But we went from having 22 players the first year to having 40 by my third year. And you got to remember, there's only like 80 kids per graduating class in this high school, so we had a big chunk of the kids. And then crazily, people were impressed enough that we won 3 games that a school that was a little bit bigger down the road actually offered me a job to take their job. And then they had won 2 games in 2 years, and we went 5-5 my first year, and then 3-7 my second year. But at that point, I was exhausted.
So you did take that job?
I did take that second job. So I was a head football coach for 5 years, and then I was exhausted. And then looking back on it, I did a terrible job. I just didn't do it. Like, if I would have taken those jobs now, I would have done everything different.
Yeah.
44-year-old Adam Szabo, 19 years later, would have literally done everything different.
Just life experiences.
Yeah, just
and
how would I
everything.
handled kids, how I would have handled coaches, my patience level, how I would have trained the kids in the off season, just how I would have handled the community as me really being like this suburban outsider going into these rural areas.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we did a lot of good for a lot of kids, and we kind of opened up the world to a lot of people, but I would have had more impact longer if I would have handled the situation better.
What did you learn from that? I mean, I know you said humility, so that's the easy one, right?
I wasn't as good of a coach as I thought I was.
Really?
Yes. I didn't know as much as I thought I did. And so that really made me start digging in deep. And I'm so happy that experience happened because I am a way better coach now. Because I just thought, you run this system and you do this and you win games because that's the way it's been my whole life.
Yeah.
And that is not the case.
Yeah.
So we learned like how to coach kids that weren't very athletic or not very smart. I just didn't do a very good job. But I'm glad it happened because now I do a much better job.
It made you a better coach.
100%. I mean, it's anything else. You learn more from your failures than your successes. When you're successful, you're just successful and you don't know why you're successful a lot of times. Sometimes you are just because you are or because somebody else is doing it, or you have really good players, or you just have daddy spending you money from behind the scenes to fill in the gaps of all your business mistakes or whatever. And we didn't have any of that stuff. So we just got our heads kicked in, and I got my head kicked in, and I had to figure it out. Thank goodness.
Wow.
What a growth opportunity.
Yep.
Oh,
It's not a challenge, it's a growth
growth.
opportunity.
It was me kicking and screaming, though, on the way as I was learning.
Okay, so we're going to fast forward to today. So I have 2 questions for you that I would love to expand upon because I want to get all these skills and traits. We've talked about what you've done. We've talked a little bit about how you've done it. You can pick the week, okay? Let's pick a crazy week, okay? And I know all your weeks are crazy.
Okay?
Pick a week that you're crazily busy throughout the last 3 to 5 years, let's say.
Okay.
What does that week look like?
So we got to go school time and summertime.
Okay.
2 different conversations. So school time, I'll get up around, you want to go from there? Like
Yep.
what the whole day looks
Absolutely.
like.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get up at 5:30 in the morning. I'll get to school somewhere around 6:30 because I like to eat breakfast and take my time, shower, and all those kind of things. Get to school about 6:30, and then I just work until school begins, whether it's grading, getting ready for the next day, whatever. Answering emails, putting out whatever fires need to get put out. Because if I am not 100% ready the day that the day starts, something's going to come up during the day. I'm going to get a text message like, I'm sick, I can't get wherever, can you find me a trainer to go, with all of the kind of, something's always going wrong, as you guys know. And so I'll teach a full day, put out fires as the day goes on. I'll get a workout in at some point during that. I'll go train for a couple hours, and then I'll get home by like 6 o'clock for my family. And then I'm in bed. I'm asleep by 9 o'clock every night. Like I
So
can't.
the girls put you to bed? Is that they're 9:30, you're 9 o'clock?
Yeah, well, we put the girls to bed and then we go to bed because we are up and at it, and the day never stops. I mean, it is. I joke. It's go 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 go, and I just fall over.
Yeah.
Now
What
on
about the weekend?
the weekend, I have a little bit more time, but
Okay.
I front load my week by working on the weekend. So like I'll get up. All of my wife and my girls are very slow movers in the morning. So I'll get up and I'll spend a couple hours on the computer or working out or whatever in kind of front loading my week so I can take care of all of that.
So that 5:30 start day that you talked about on a weekday, let's call it a Monday, you're saying you were actually already preparing for it 2 days earlier over the weekend to be able to do what you do during the week?
I was preparing for it a month before. So this goes back to the time management stuff. So like all my workout schedules, everything are done about a month before the next cycle begins. Because I have to. Because I also have to get everything ready for my trainers. The athletic directors have to know what's going on. The coaches have to know what's going on. They got to get their calendars out to their people, all that kind of stuff. So everything's done about a month ahead in terms of the business side. For the school side, I actually spend all summer working on school too, here and there. So every single one of my lesson plans, tests, quizzes, everything is made before the school year starts. So I technically don't have schoolwork except what I grade.
Yeah.
Because everything else is already made. So I have everything written down, all my YouTube videos I'm going to show, everything's written in a spreadsheet. So I can I could wake up any day of the week, find, if we're on day 55 of school, I just look at day 55 and go, baby, go. Now, granted, I've been doing it for 21 years, as you know, Carla, so it's a lot easier. It wasn't that case, the first couple of years, but then that makes everything go a little faster. So it's always the front loading that's the answer for all of these questions. People are always trying to do too much when things are due.
Okay.
Everything should be done a month before they're due. And at first, that's going to be really hard to get done. But once you get it done, the freedom of it is unbelievable. Because if not, I would never get a workout in during the day because somebody's always calling. There's always something going on. There's always a student that needs something or needs to talk. There's always papers to grade, right? All that kind of stuff. So, and the other part of it too is I'm kind of boring. So when I go to school to work.
Yeah.
I am not in my conference time sitting in the teacher's lounge talking to other teachers. I go to my classroom and it's go time.
It's just like you in study hall next to the pretty girl.
Exactly right. It's no different. She's a distraction. So
no
leave me alone.
Talking for you.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well, most of it's complaining anyway, so I don't even want to listen to it regardless. I love my job. I love my kids, so I just go there and I'm happy. Yeah. So it's really just an all day, just bang, 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 going through the day. And I understand that most people can't do that, and I'm a little weird in those respects, but the closer you can get to that, the easier life's going to be.
Yeah. Just staying on task, utilizing every minute.
Yes.
Do you also keep a crazy calendar? How do you remember everything and keep track of everything? What are your organizational tips? Okay,
so people laugh all the time. I have a paper it's a plain white sheet of paper that I write down all my to-do stuff on. Mm-hmm. And Kristen, actually, at one point, my wife, tried to buy me a book. Yeah. And I'm not using that because I didn't want to lose something on page 3 when I was now on page 10. So I just go and I write it in real little. So I have all my to-do stuff. And then on the right-hand side, I have all the people that owe me money still. And then I have other ideas of what workouts I need to make, other clients I need to potentially get a hold of. All that stuff's on the right-hand side. And when I get to the end of the sheet, I just take whatever's still on that sheet, write it on the new sheet, and start all over. And that sheet goes with me wherever I go.
So I actually want to point out something, because as someone who's kind of passionate about small business, which is the topic here today, the reality is that I coach people all the time, and I tell them, I see so many small business owners that they think that success is being corporate. They think that success is not being small and not being simple, because that sounds bad, the negative connotation. Simple. I tell them all the time, that's our golden goose. As business owners, the fact that you're not a organization that has thousands and thousands of clients and coaches and trainers all over the country and doesn't need tech and all the things that we're talking about here today, that's the beauty of small business. Mm-hmm. And if you ever get that big, okay, you may need to do that, but let's not reinvent the wheel here. What you're doing works.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and so I have a Google Calendar for all my trainers that they can get to. So it has all the workouts of everybody in the whole city that's doing training. It just has their name underneath it. And everything's color-coded so they can find all their stuff. And then I have a account spreadsheet doc. So they can go to any of the clients that we have, and they all have their own tabs. And it gives all the logistical stuff. And it has links to their calendars and to their workouts. Mm-hmm. So my trainers have 2 things they ever have to look at. It's the calendar and then the account doc. Mm-hmm. And that's all they ever use. And so that keeps it simple for them. Now, the other one that I do that people laugh about all the time, which is really the stupidest way to do it, is I just send myself emails all the time. So if we were sitting there talking, you're like, hey, Adam, I need you to give me something for the show notes. Mm-hmm. I would just pull up my email, type in my email, and then send send Dave show notes, send Carla this. And I would just hit send. Yeah. So my inbox is filled with me. If you've ever sent yourself an email, that's what it says.
I text myself all the time. She probably doesn't even know this, but I do all the time.
I just put stuff in my calendar.
Send myself a text.
Yeah.
Well, I do that too, but you know.
Yeah, and it's a really simple way, and people laugh because they'll be like talking to me, and then all of a sudden they see me pull my phone out, and I'm not being disrespectful.
Yeah.
They're like, "Are you going to email yourself?" I'm like, "Yep," and I start going through it. So I have my own Google Calendar, which keeps everybody sane with Kristen and my crazy schedule, and the girls playing sports and being in plays and all those kind of things, and then just the stuff for the business, and that kind of keeps everybody together. And mine's a little business, so it's not like I have to worry about all. So kind of like you were saying, it makes my life pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
How many employees do you have at this point?
I write about 6 to 7 checks every month. But that's actually the funny thing about having this conversation. You guys talking about how this business is growing and everything. I'm starting to sell some of it off. Because I'm running out of time. The girls are starting to get older, and they're getting really busy. And then one of my sons, who we haven't even talked to, some people are like, "What do you mean you have sons? Where'd this come from?" We'll talk about them, I guess, eventually. One of my sons just had triplets.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I am technically a grandfather now.
Wow.
So
I see them on Facebook. They're adorable.
yes, so I'm selling off some of the business to my trainers who are already doing the training at those places, and they're taking over for that. And it's just my life needs to get cleaned up for about the next 6 years or 7 years until the girls start going off to college, and then I might try to take over the world again. But I'm just in a different phase of life now. So, and that's a nice thing about having a side business instead of it being and you guys can't take a break from yours, right?
Yeah.
But I can take a break from mine because all that, and we've organized our finances in a way where all of that money is extra money. That's not live on
It's
money.
not your bread and butter.
It's not live on money. That's extra money.
Yeah.
And so we're in a good financial situation, so I can kind of take a step back for a little while and calm things down.
So it seems weird to ask a question of a good friend that I know the answer to. But that's what we'll do anyways. So how did you get 3 sons that you don't have but you do have, and tell us about this?
Well, I actually wanted to say something. So
Okay.
one thing that I have always admired about Adam is that he is a teacher, he is a coach, but your teaching and your coaching has been so much more about the personal relationships, not even the athletic training, but the mentoring youth and your faith.
Yes.
And so based on that, I think that kind of transitions into how'd you get these sons?
Okay, well, let's go back to the first football job I had.
Okay.
I didn't act very well also. So I thought that I had to be the stereotypical, like, hard coach. So I would cuss at the kids and just not act appropriately. So then I go to the next school and I go, okay, I need to change my behavior, right? Because I'm a Christian also. Now, granted, I wasn't walking the walk the way I should have, but I'm a Christian. So I started doing a better job with that, even though it wasn't as good. So I met this kid named Cody, who was a 15-year-old, and he was struggling with some stuff, and things at home weren't always great. And so Kristen and I, we started taking a vested interest in him. Now, the funny part about this is it was completely wasn't for Cody. This was a, what's the best way to say it? It was a very selfish motive. So Cody was one of my best players as even a freshman, but he was having trouble staying eligible. So we
needed him to play.
Exactly right. So we started
Like
taking
that Hallmark movie.
yeah. So we started taking him out to dinner every time he passed all of his classes. Well, we started developing a relationship with him, and then over time we started developing a relationship with his mom. We got to know his grandparents, and so we kind of just helped from afar. And so we count him as our firstborn child, right? Even though he's technically not ours.
Yes. That you adopted at 15.
Yeah, we call it informal adoption.
Yes.
So even after I left that school and went to Anderson, Kristen would still like go to his senior nights and stuff like that because I was coaching football, so I couldn't go. So Kristen was really the one that kind of kept it rolling, and she would still send him cupcakes on his birthday and stuff like that. So then I get to Anderson, and then I meet 2 more boys. And so we're on this train now of, okay, we can do this. So then we got 2 more sons. So we have 3 guys that we count as our kids. One of them lived with us for a year. They've all now been married. Now, granted, one of them got divorced, but we keep his ex-wife also because she's amazing too. And so now we have our 2 boys our 3 boys, our 2 biological children, or girls, and then we have our 3 daughter-in-laws. And so our life is crazy. And it's awesome. I mean, it's been absolutely amazing. And this never would have been able to happen if my wife wasn't loving and crazy enough to allow it to happen. Because like, it's one thing for me, I've developed relationships for these kids.
Yeah.
Kristen has no reason to be good to them. And the good thing is, they love her more than they love me. and it's actually...
Well, yeah, we love whoever sends us cupcakes. You're like out there making them run.
It's amazing, because, and I understand why, because she has no reason to love them. Mm-hmm. I had a vested interest. They were really good athletes. They were my players.
They knew that? I mean,
I think they get that about Kristen, that she's doing it out of just pure awesomeness and
just
loving
love.
it, and just
Pure
sheer
love.
And that's all that they get from her, is just pure love. Because I'm always the hammer. I'm the one like, why are you doing this? Why did you do that? I'm not going to let this happen. All that kind of stuff. And Kristen's always the one just hugging them and kissing them and all that kind of stuff.
You're the discipline.
they need both. They need both. We all know that.
Yes, definitely. Everybody needs both.
All right, so before we end this today, I got a couple more questions for you. One of them is, like, I'm exhausted hearing you talk about this. Like, I'm exhausted hearing you talk about your day and your schedule and all that. And I have a pretty crazy life as my own, obviously. So what's your not so secrets to keeping your energy up? Because you talk about, like, at 9 o'clock you crash.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know how you run, and you don't stop until you crash, or you don't crash until you stop. So like, what, 7:30 at night, you're still going, you know, because I know you're a fantastic dad and husband. You don't, when you get done training at 6, you don't go home, plop on the couch, watch TV for 3 hours.
Exactly right.
And, you know, so how do you do that?
It's actually a simpler answer than people think it is.
Okay.
I don't drink. I don't smoke. I eat really well. I eat really clean. I go with the rules, the basic rules of eat what God made, in the form God made it, and eat for nutrients, not calories. And I sleep every night. I get 8 hours of sleep every night. And the 8 hours of sleep is the real answer to all of this.
If you had to pick one of those, that's what you'd pick?
Yes, because if I get less than that, if I get under 7 hours, okay, so people look at it and they try to do the equation of that the 24-hour day is a zero-sum game, right? And so they go, well, if I just stay up 2 hours later, then I can be 2 hours more productive.
There's a lot of people that coach that in the business world.
And I completely disagree with that.
I do too.
Because if you will get your sleep, you will be more productive in that less of a 2 hours, and then you won't have to stimulate yourself through people take Adderall constantly, Monsters, coffee, Cokes in general, that are just things that aren't great for you, and that over time are going to cause problems. And so it's just better to just sleep. And I'm going to put a plug in here. Go find stuff on Matthew Walker. He's a sleep expert, and go watch it. Because you will watch it and you'll go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been doing this to myself all these years. But
Because it's not just the sleep, but it's about a regular schedule of sleep.
Yes.
Like you have your 9 to 5:30 every night.
Yes.
So.
And I try to stay on that schedule, because I wouldn't be able to get through the day. Because I mean, so we didn't even talk about the summer schedule. So
what is the summer schedule?
Summer schedule's worse.
Sitting by the pool? Is that it?
I just chill all day. Just read.
Watching General Hospital.
You guys only work 9 months
do nothing. People are always like, "Are you excited for the summer?" I'm like, I'm not sure if I am, because there are many days that I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, get to workouts, get ready. So workouts start 6:45, and I'll do training at Anderson for the morning, and then I'll go to Midland in the afternoon, that baseball program, and I'll get home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. But it's different because I never stop walking. I never stop walking. And I'm constantly talking, and I'm constantly demonstrating, and I'm constantly showing them this and showing them that. I don't even know how many miles I put in.
I mean, that's what we call it.
Exactly
You're
right.
on. It's like being in an interview. Like, you are on for, like, what is that, 10 hours, 9 hours? I don't know. 12 hours. 6 to 6, basically?
Straight. And in the heat. Walking constantly, plus my mind is going 100 miles an hour because, and I say this in a good way, kids are always doing something wrong. So I'm constantly fixing something of their technique or their effort level or whatever. So it just, It is tiring. That the summer wears me out more than the school year does.
So do you ever relax?
Yes.
Sit back, watch TV, or
Yes.
just like,
Well, I don't watch a lot of TV.
what do you do to relax?
I watch movies.
Ooh, I talked to you about that before.
Yeah.
I love movies.
So if I'm
That's
either,
still TV. I mean, come
yeah,
on.
Yeah, it's a screen.
yeah, but I'm either going 100 miles an hour or I'm
Yeah.
like sitting dead like a stump on the couch watching a movie. But a lot of times though, I watch my movies while I'm eating lunch and stuff like that. So I hardly
that kind of
ever
stuff.
watch a movie straight.
Yes.
Okay, so I have to ask you, what do you do when you drive? You listen to the podcast?
I
That's
do
what
listen to podcasts.
That's what I do.
I have, well, or sermons. I listen to a
Okay.
lot of sermons too. Like I'll pull them up on YouTube and listen to them. But the podcasts are a big one.
Yeah.
There's three that I listen to. One's the Joe Rogan Experience. I listen to like when he brings on the scientists and stuff. There's a Just Fly podcast, which is all about training. And then there's one I'm listening to right now. It's called the Huberman Lab. It's a guy named Andrew Huberman from Stanford, and he just basically gives hour lectures on like science stuff, and it's amazing. And he does an amazing job with it. So, and then for the sermons, I just find sermons, certain people I listen to, and I'll just get those going. And so that fulfills the biblical needs and the God needs that I need during the day also. Besides reading my Bible before I go to bed every night, which kind of sets me in a peace zone so I can fall asleep and it kind of gets rid of everything. I need that time at night also to calm myself down and shut my brain down and pray and things like that to get to sleep.
How long is that from when you go to bed to when you go to sleep?
Well, the joke is sometimes Kristen will say I get through like a page and I'm out because I'm just so tired.
Bible out from under your head.
Yes. Other days it's a little bit longer, but there are some days it goes fast.
That's awesome. All right, listen. Well, thanks so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule. I know you probably didn't have anything else to do today, but seriously, so if you can leave our audience with 3 or 4 tips, big picture things regarding all the things that we've discussed today, because these are small business owners, and they don't own a speed and agility training course or a program or company, but what they do is they own a small business in some way, and quite frankly, a lot of them probably are side businesses, side hustles. Ours was for many years before it became our full-time thing. What's your big picture macro things that if somebody said you got 5 minutes to talk to a small business owner about time management, efficiency, health, all the things we've talked about today?
People is the answer to everything. Who you hire will determine the success of your business more than you could possibly imagine. How you take care of your customers and how your customers feel when you interact with them will make a world of difference. Just take care of your people. And then just work really hard. And I don't think, like I told you at one point in my life, I was wasting a lot of time during the summers. I thought I was working hard then, but I was still wasting tons of time.
Yeah.
And so you can find, I tell the kids all the time at school, I say, you guys mess up your whole day, and I understand why you guys have so many anxiety problems, because you waste so much of your day. Because every time you take 5 minutes and look through your Instagram feed or Twitter feed, it isn't like if you take 10 minutes to work on your homework and then go 5 minutes on Instagram or Snapchat and then go back to 10 minutes, that 10 minutes and 10 minutes isn't the same as 20 minutes straight. Yep. And so just kind of, you got to lock in sometimes and just push everything off to the side and just go. Yeah. And so people, if you take 15 minutes 4 times a day to look through your social media stuff, you've wasted an hour. And I understand I don't really do social media stuff, so I say it's kind of a waste, but I understand it's not a waste, right? People use it to learn and so on and so forth too, and to keep up with other people. My wife does a great job helping me keep up with everybody because I do such a terrible job at it. But I think people waste a lot of their day. And then I don't think they organize their day. Most people organize their day well enough. So they play first and work second. When I tell the kids all the time at school, you need to work first, play second, because if you work first and play second, the play will be much more enjoyable. And I say, if you go to school and then you go home and you spend 3 hours playing video games and you have a paper due the next day that you haven't started working on, playing those video games actually isn't going to be as fun, because in your back of your mind you're going, I should be working on that paper, I should be working on that paper. But if you get that paper done, you can play video games for the rest of the night because you have zero responsibilities now.
Yeah.
And if all your work's already done, when a fire comes up that you got to put out, you're going to actually be able to put it out because you're not being like, oh no, I still have to do A to get to B, but now C came up when you didn't prepare for C coming up. Well,
Yes.
you can never prepare for C coming up except just knowing that you have enough free time to be able to take care of C when it shows up.
Yeah.
Right.
When C's there, you're not still focused on B.
Exactly
B you've
right.
already taken care of.
Exactly.
You are so speaking to my procrastinator self.
Well, I find it interesting because I didn't always do what you're describing, but I feel like I do a much better job of it now, and I call it obsession, like tunnel vision, whatever, focus, whatever you want to call it. All right, well, thanks, Adam, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here today, and you know, those lessons about efficiencies and, you know, people being the key to success and scaling is, you know, I think that's something that all of us laundromat owners, all of us small business owners in any industry can take a lot from this episode. So listen, man, I appreciate you being here with us today. I know your time is valuable, and for all of our audience at home, I want to thank you guys for being here today, and we'll see you all next time for another episode of Laundromat Millionaire Show. Take care.